Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting for the Everett School Committee on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. The time is 6:33 p.m. Clerk, could you call the roll to determine a quorum?
Mr. Almeida Barros. Ms. Babcock.
Present.
Ms. Barros.
Here.
Ms. Cornelio.
Present.
Ms. Cristiano.
Here.
Mayor Di Maria. Mr. D'Onofrio. Ms. Guerin.
Present.
Mr. LaMonica. Madam Chair.
Present.
6 members present.
6 members present. We do have a quorum. If everyone could join me in saluting the flag and then remain standing.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I would ask to take a moment of silence for the victims of the tragic school shooting that occurred at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis on August 27, 2025. The senseless act of violence is unthinkable as everyone across the nation begins a new school year. Our thoughts are with the families of those who lost their lives, to those who are recovering from injuries suffered during the attack, and the greater Minneapolis community. Thank you all. Mr. Hart, the next order of business on the agenda.
Roman numeral 3, reading of the records for Monday, August the 25th, 2025.
Make a motion to waive the reading and place on file.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Barrow, seconded by Ms. Guerin to waive the reading from Monday, August 25th, 2025, and place on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passed. Superintendent, the next order of business.
Roman numeral 4, public comment.
Make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Babcock, seconded by Ms. Barrows to open public comment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Public comment is now open. Seeing no speakers on the sign-up sheet, is there anyone that would like to speak in public comment? Seeing none.
Make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Babcock, seconded by Ms. Cornelio to close public comment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Public comment is now closed. Superintendent, next order of business.
Roman numeral 5, report of the student representative. And if I may, Madam Chair and members of the committee, I do have an update for you on the student election process. Nominations for student council and members of the student council are due tomorrow, September the 3rd. 4 offices will be up for election: president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary of the Everett Student Council. I understand there's about 15 young people who've put their name in nomination or have had their name in nomination for one of those 4 offices. The students will conduct an election in another week and a half, and then we should have a member of the student council sit as your next member of the Everett School Committee for the next regular scheduling meeting, which is 2 weeks from yesterday.
Thank you, Superintendent. The next order of business.
Roman numeral 6, report of the superintendent. Item number 1, the superintendent's update. Thank you once again. As you know, we met just a week ago, and based on our rules, we're here again this evening for our regularly scheduled meeting, which is on a Tuesday because of the Monday holiday. Just as a reminder for those of you in the audience who may not know, but our schools are all fully open, and tomorrow we will welcome in about 400 preschoolers to our 2 preschool buildings. There's orientation day, which the parents get to talk with and meet the teachers and staff at both the Adams School and the Webster Extension, which is our Old Everett High School. As I mentioned to you before, we are expanding the space at Old Everett High School to include 3 additional classrooms to accommodate some students who've tested into special ed services and require a ratio of 1 to 9 or up to 1 to 10 actually in a classroom. So given that new number of students who have tested into special ed services, we will open 3 rooms. Thanks to the City of Everett staff, they've accommodated my request, and they're doing that, just continuing on one of the hallways that currently exists in that building. We opened school last week with some of our members of our school committee that joined me at the Lafayette School for the first day, and we have about 850 young people coming to school at the Lafayette. Just as an FYI, and I certainly will remind everybody, our enrollment process is still ongoing. We still have a little bit of under 100 kids in what I will call the queue, waiting to come into the schools because we're waiting for immunizations and other additional paperwork required upon their entry. But we're hitting just about 7,300 as of today. And as I said, we have a little bit under 100 waiting. And as many of you know, we also see kind of a rolling in the first couple of weeks admission to schools here. And then at mid-year, we do receive a lot of students, especially from Brazil, who come to America to join because their school year has ended. So we see a little bump. So we're right around where we were last year at this time. So I'll keep you all informed as those numbers change. So again, thank you to the members of the school committee who were able to join me last week, Ms. Barros and Ms. Hurley in particular, and the mayor was also there, and all of you share, like me, a common bond with that school. You have children. I went there myself, and my nieces went there. So we were all felt like it was Old Home Week for us. There was no school today because of our teachers' contractual obligation. We provide professional development, and we did that here across the schools. Last year, we did some of this remotely, and that doesn't become as engaging as we would like for that experience. So thanks to the efforts of Dr. Adams and the crew on our academic side of the house, they put together a wonderful program for all of our staff and faculty, and for those that had specialty, whether they were interventionists, special ed, reading specialists, they all had very specific training, if you will, of professional development. So they were here a full day, and then tomorrow, as I said, we'll open schools for all grades, so pre-K through 12. We'll be welcoming back to Everett Public Schools officially. Just a few quick notes that normally I think you'd probably hear from a student representative, but I'll try to go through them quickly. Our cross-country team will make a short trip to Chelsea tomorrow. The girls' volleyball and girls' soccer teams travel to Lowell, and the boys will host Lowell here in Everett. The field hockey team is in action on Thursday, also in Lowell. This Friday, our boys' soccer team hosts Marblehead. Our girls' soccer team plays at Waltham. Girls volleyball team travels to Lawrence, and the football team will kick off the season versus Medford at the I will call it the new Veterans Memorial Stadium at 6 p.m. There will be a ribbon cutting of sorts. I've been invited to participate with our student athletes and cheerleaders. This will be the first time our students play a game on what is now a very brand new Veterans Memorial Field. So thank you to all the folks that put that together and got it ready for us to welcome Medford on Friday. I know Coach DiLoretto has been working hard with the team, and to all the teams that the kids really are excited to be back to school. We'll see how that happens after the first marking period, but right now everybody seems to be pretty happy, and they're all getting involved in various organizations, and we're excited to see them back. And I'm wishing all of the athletes and the coaches too a very successful and safe season as we welcome each of them to the various sports and clubs that they will participate over this school year. We will be hosting a family night with the EL department. So the Department of English Learners will host a family night and fair on Thursday, September the 25th from 4 to 6 at the Parland. All families are welcome, and they are encouraged to attend. We have our family liaisons there. They connect with some of our community partners. We provide some food and music and things that engage our families and to understand the importance of coming to school and learning the way we have set them for this coming year. And I know last year when I attended this event, it was very well attended by our students and their families. So I welcome them all back again on September the 25th. And this social media is out on this, and there's flyers. And I just wanted all of you to be aware of it. So please, if you're available that evening, please come by. So I mentioned maybe briefly last week, and this week is no exception, we will be receiving donations of backpacks from various organizations. And tomorrow, we will welcome back the Teamsters Local 25. They make a significant contribution of backpacks that are just filled with great supplies for our students. And they come to us at Christmas time and give gift cards for our needy families in our schools. So they're coming tomorrow with at least 250. They always come with more, but at least 250 filled backpacks. Later on in the morning, we'll also be joining the Members Credit Union from on Broadway, formerly known as the Everett Credit Union. They have been historically donators of backpacks to the Parlin School because they're just kind of diagonally across from each other. So they're giving their neighbor some backpacks, and I want to thank the leadership, President Murphy, Paulette Gaudreau, and the others, good people at Members Plus Credit Union who've always been so generous. I'll have a complete list of other items for you to formally accept, but I wanted to give you that heads up because I know that the Teamsters in particular always put some social media out on that, so I didn't want you to think I wasn't giving you that update. We are also planning homecoming events. Today, we met with city officials, the mayor and others, to talk about homecoming activities for the city. Homecoming game is October the 25th. It's a Saturday at 1:30. We're looking to host some outdoor events to bring families together to kind of get energized behind the football game. But really it is going to be, from our end, a community engagement event where we are going to have giveaways that for books and things that encourage learning and excelling in the work of the Everett Public Schools. So we're working on a full agenda. We'll be some social media posts out, and then I'm sure, looking to the school committee to participate in something like we did for National Night Out, put a booth together, provide some books and some other things that we may choose to give to families as they come to enjoy the morning. Let's hope for good weather. I'm going to try to put together pancake breakfast. I want to thank the athletic staff here, Tammy Turner, Steve Gallagher, and others, because they and Gene O'Brien with music, and this whole host of folks specifically here at the high school who've always been involved in some way with these homecoming events. So we're going to try to restore that tradition and put our own spin to it so that this year we can rally on the 25th of October. So more to come on that. And lastly, on my report anyway, for Kids Only, which is our new after-school and provider of after-school programming, of course, during vacations as well, they have already 300 families engaged in registering their children. So 190 are already in and registered, 110 are in the process. They continue to have a great showing. I think at this point we have at least, if not more than we had last year at this time, different provider. There is a different fee structure, as I mentioned to many of you that had asked the question. There are still scholarship available for students and families who are in need, so that is never going to go away. FKO themselves have committed to providing additional resources to support our families, which I appreciate the leadership of Deb Nealand and her staff, because they've been very helpful to families in getting them registered and getting all those little particulars done, so our families won't go without some after-school programming, and certainly in vacation and so forth. Madam Chair, that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Ms. Cristiano?
Thank you, Mr. Hart, for your wonderful presentation. Just a quick question on the For Kids Only program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they coming into our schools now?
Yes, they are.
Okay, that's great.
So the programming for our families, the kids will stay in the school that they're
Perfect.
attending. And to the extent that FKO can, they do hire some of our own staff to stay in those buildings because our staff know the kids. And so I think for the children anyway, they see familiar faces. But they have a very robust program planned. And we have a person on our own staff who manages and monitors that work, Danielle Durham. She's been with us for a little over a year. She came to us from Boston managing a very similar program. And so we have our own oversight along with the work that FKO provides to students.
That's great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Cristiano. Ms. Guerin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask about the parking situation at the old high school, at the Webster Extension. This does actually apply to me personally, but obviously since they've been working on the roof and the fencing's been going up and parking is hard enough as it is, even without all the fencing, is that going to be cleared by the start?
So they plan to be complete with the building in November. So everything seems to be on track with the actual roof itself. So all of the entrances that we use, there's really no construction or renovation or roofing going on. So the Maple Street side will currently be used only for staff. The Broadway side will be used for all parents that walk their children to school, and I call it the Pleasant Street side of the building, which goes between, there's now, it used to be called the Masonic Building, but there's a pathway there that our buses with the kids that require busing will still continue to enter and exit that way. Parking of those fenced-in areas, we've asked the construction company for some additional spaces to be freed up by having them remove some of the building materials that were previously packed on the side where some of our staff were able to park. We did ask the mayor and the city if we could have a shuttle with our staff from River Green to the site. We didn't have a lot of takers on that, so I wasn't really going to put a person on a shuttle for a few people. We have reminded our staff to be mindful of the parking restrictions, including and not limited to fire hydrants and driveways and handicap spots, but also to street sweeping. And we understand, and this is just in the discussion stage, I toured the school on Thursday with the construction manager and our assistant principal, Ms. Stokes. They have a great rapport. They've been extremely helpful to our staff as well, as they know they're in our space, that he was going to try to free up some spots. So when the construction folks come, they move those fences and they put their vehicles in and close the fences. My suggestion to them was, let's get those fencing pieces down where there's no more construction, there's no more risk, if you will, of debris falling. I think that they're amenable to that, and we're going to see how that looks. They've been very helpful in cleaning in and around the school building, which is also important to me because I don't want the kids or parents to be stepping on anything that shouldn't be there. So they've done a very clean sweep the last, Friday they were out, and then today as well. I do or have at least thrown out there, and it may not be popular with a lot of people, but going further down the road, that section in the front of the building, the Broadway side, right now isn't very attractive. It was torn up because of construction. There used to be community growers there. They're no longer there. Why couldn't we put some I'll call it landscaping stone up there, and it would require a very small ramp so that our employees could park there, and we could put some kind of a aesthetically pleasing, whether it's shrubs or some kind of barrier between the Broadway sidewalk and the front of the building where staff would park, and then allow our residents to park there in the evening. That's still in discussion. It's not off the table, but I'm trying to look at ways to be a good neighbor to very nice people who live around there and get inconvenienced by other people not following the rules. We do, just so you know, we do have traffic out there. Our police are wonderful. Not to be enforcing, but to remind people the appropriate places to drop kids off safely, moving people along once they drop their child off. And this has been true of all the schools, by the way, and it will be no different both at the Adams and at Broadway at the old Everett High School. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Ms. Guerin. We're trying to find ways to allow staff not to clog the streets, so to speak.
Okay, thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Guerin. Any other questions or comments for the superintendent? Seeing none.
Make a motion to accept the report of the superintendent and place it on file.
Seconded.
Motion made by Ms. Babcock, seconded by Ms. Cristiano to accept the report of the superintendent and place on file. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, motion passed. Superintendent, the next order of business?
Item number 2, I'm asking for your approval of the Everett Public Schools Bullying Prevention and Intervention Plan. I know that it was included in your packet. There has been some slight changes to it, and I thought it was important for you to hear a little bit about it because we hear about so much of bullying going on across the whole United States. It's nothing to brag about. We've had a couple of incidents in the past year, but nothing that you would imagine a school district of this size to have as a recorded bullying incident. However, we want to be consistent with state mandated guidelines along with best practice. So on an annual basis, and I know I did this last year, we update some of our policies for your review and approval because the school board does approve policy. So I've asked Assistant Superintendent Mr. Lynch and Dr. Donahue to come forward and just briefly bring the school committee up to date on the couple of changes that were made and how kind of we've managed in Everett to resolve issues before they become a reportable incident. And so I'm going to ask you to have them come forward to make some brief comments, please.
Make a motion to bring up Mr. Donahue and Mr. Lynch.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Barrows, seconded by Ms. Cornelio to invite Assistant Superintendent Lynch and Dr. Donahue before us. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome.
Thank you. So our policy had everything in it. There was really not many changes, but we have a new attorney that's working with the district, so we took that as an opportunity for her to review the policy. We did add things. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. I thought that was on. So I'll start over. So the policy has pretty much the same things in it that the previous policy had. We had a new attorney start with us last, I think, winter. So we took the opportunity to review this policy, also based on our audit that we went through last fall. Some of the changes that you'll see in it, it talks about the problem resolution system for special ed students and just for parents to reach out to the state. Some of the things that it talks about, it just kind of puts things in a better order. So our policy mirrored what really came out in 2011, 2014, but a lot of districts have adopted just a change in the presentation that allows principals, assistant principals, and staff to go through the, investigating bullying, writing reports, and using the forms. So this policy is just a newer version, a better organized version, and one that I think is a lot easier for school administration to work with.
And to add on, I think what the superintendent was alluding to earlier, so most everything that is done in schools is reported to DESE. So, in preparation for this, we did look back across the district and seeing accusations of bullying, confirmed cases of bullying, because there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people want to classify something as bullying where it may just be a one-time incident. So we looked at this. So I think what the superintendent was alluding to, so there was 15 accusations of bullying in the district last year. That's through all the schools. 2 of them were at the high school, 13 at the elementary school. Out of that, there was 2 confirmed students who were disciplined for bullying. To put that into perspective with our counterparts, Malden had 4, Chelsea had 2, Medford had 9, Haverhill had 4. So similar districts of that same size is how it goes through. Now, that doesn't mean that students weren't disciplined for incidents that may have occurred with other students that were inappropriate in a school setting, outside of a school setting. It's just, in fact, the investigation was completed by the principal, his or her designee, which is usually an AP at the high school dean, now assistant principal, and then confirmed that it was repeated bullying that either caused that student, any type of victim, could be, and it doesn't just have to be a student. It could be a staff member, it could be staff to student, it could be student to staff, reported through that were confirmed. So as Dr. Donahue was just stating, some of the updates here, the newer issues were just really to try and clarify some of that so that it's all spelled out. Not that we didn't have this before, but it was just more with the updates of mass law that we were just consistent with what was going on. Again, speaking, having been a principal in the elementary and at the high school level, my counterparts, I know, take bullying very seriously and investigate everything to the fullest extent that they can. And that is whether a complaint of bullying comes in anonymously, from a parent, from the student themselves, from another student, from a staff member that may see something going on. And, and so we're bound by mass law, obviously, to investigate all this to the fullest. We want to make sure that there is resolution for people who may feel, parents, guardians, students who may feel that the investigation may have not been done correctly. So what Dr. Donahue was talking about in that Section 8 is the PRS, which is the next level for a parent, guardian to report to DESE, that problem, and then the state gets involved and then goes through that whole process step by step with a school, a principal, assistant principal.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Babcock?
I have one question. I did notice that there was an allowance for anonymous reporting. How will anonymous reports be handled? There's obviously no disciplinary action because it's anonymous and so forth, but I think it is a good spot to allow people to do that. But what would be done with that information once it was received?
So it's a great question. So on an anonymous complaint of bullying, the target is never disciplined immediately just off an anonymous complaint, obviously. But an anonymous complaint does warrant an investigation by the principal, his or her designee, to go through. So what a typical investigation looks like is, a target may be named. There could be multiple targets. It could be a group of students. It could be one student. It could be a parent. It could be a teacher. Things happen like that. We're lucky enough that, we don't have a lot of these incidences, but it doesn't mean that it can't happen. And when that complaints come in, we take that seriously. We talk to every individual who may be involved in the complaint. Of course, the target, the anonymously named individual, is always one of the first people that the investigation would start with. We go through, we talk through. If it gets into a point, we're obviously in an age now where a lot, unfortunately, is done online, through cell phones, where people can either be or try to be anonymous and then target these individuals. So, and that's really where it gets tricky, but we'll go through there. We go through all those steps. We find out a lot of times it will lead to other students involved, and it may or may not be bullying. It could be a one-time incident, but there's also been incidences where we've had to involve SROs who work great, where it may rise to the level of an actual crime. Now, that can happen. Usually it's where there's incidences where things are shared inappropriately with underage students, to the point where there's threatened harm. So, everything that we take is taken with the utmost importance, because there is no tolerance for bullying. I haven't been a victim of bullying myself in the younger years. I'm super, sensitive to this. But with an anonymous complaint, it always starts there. But also, like anything in our society, just because it's an anonymous complaint, that individual, that student has rights. They have privacy rights where, those things aren't reported out until we start to go down the road and things are actually confirmed or gone through. And that's another thing for parents, people to understand, is that the aggressor does have rights too. So we may put in a safety plan, we may put in this, but because that student has privacy rights, they may not get the whole story, and that can be frustrating for a lot of parents and guardians that, I want to know exactly what happened. Was he or she disciplined in this way? I want them suspended, and I totally get that. As a parent myself, I understand that, but the thing to understand is that those individuals too are protected under law, protected under the school. So it's a lot of trust, which I believe our parents, guardians, teachers, students have faith in us that we're going to do the right thing to make sure that this doesn't happen. Because at the end of the day, we just want it to stop. We just want it to end, and we just want to make sure that that student feels safe in our building. There is nothing else more important to us.
Ms. Babcock?
Thank you. That's actually wonderful, that detailed information, because, having an anonymous place to report something and know that it still will be heard is fantastic. So I have two other questions. So there, in the packet, I also noticed that there is a definition of bullying, and even for me as a parent, it's hard to say, I think that all of us are protective of our children, and anything can feel like bullying, like, oh, he looked at him weird, he's bullying him. I don't want to make light of anything or diminish anything, but what is a good definition that you could give us that parents could use holistically to sort of say, hey, I think that this is something I need to do something about,
It's a great question, very difficult question to answer.
know.
Because everything is so individual. And that's the way we have to do investigations, is everything is so individual to the student, to the situation, to the timing. Bullying is classified as repeated, and that's the first word that they'll put in there, repeated, and going forward. Because harm can be caused, as someone could walk down the hall, say something one time, and that could ruin that kid's day, they might stick with them moving forward forever, comments. But bullying does carry an additional, bullying and harassment, a hostile work environment, the same conditions that we have for like our school and our workplace, completing a hostile work environment, anything like that, making the student feel uncomfortable, if they feel threatened for their safety. And this is what we deal with a lot, and I've dealt with a lot. And it's not surprising that a lot of this, we'll see more incidences in the younger grades, and that comes to the education, being appropriate in school, using that language. We also know that there are more vulnerable populations of students who could be more, targeted. And so that's teaching staff, that's teaching students to really, work together. And I can't say this, not that I could never promise that it doesn't happen, right? And I can never promise that it hasn't happened or gone through. But I think in our buildings and community, we really do a good job educating our kids, working together. As we've said a million times in this district, and it's 100% true, our diversity is our strength in this district. And because we're a community, I looked it up today, and it also wasn't a surprise to me that some more of the affluent communities had far more incidences of bullying. In comparison to us and some of our counterparts. Does it make me proud? I don't know if it makes me proud or not. It's just the state that we're in. But I believe that, knowing our kids, having been in this district for 14 years. And to go back to answer your question, it's very difficult because it is so individualized. But I understand the strife of parents, the frustration with parents, the frustration with students when an incident has occurred and they feel like they're being bullied. And they're not lying, they feel like they're being bullied. But to get to that level, there's the steps that we have to take to go forward and make sure that step by step that has happened. Because once we do confirm as a school that bullying has occurred, it's just a whole other level of disciplinary action for the student. A lot of things we put in place before. That is changing the aggressor's, schedule. It's putting in a safety plan for the students. It could be to the point sometimes changing schools, and that's not to speak about suspension or anything else before that. So it's really, there is not a good definition, I think, Ms. Babcock, because I think it's so individualized to go forward. It's, it's repeated and it's a lot of work to go forward. I think that's what this change in this policy, adding the PRS, because that was one of the major changes that we did put in there. Because obviously, if our decision is not agreed with, even though we've gone through every step that we say we're going to go through, a parent, a guardian, a student may feel wronged by that, and they may not agree with that. That is that other level to go to a new set of eyes, the outside agency that governs all of our schools, to take another look at it. And a lot of times they will agree with what we've had, and other times it's not. And then what corrective action then we can take as a school to make sure that everyone's whole.
And I think if I could add, and Dr. Donahue helped me with this, I think that the complaints that had risen to the point where we had to report them, that we had, if I'm not mistaken, the state said that we had followed the right process up to that point, and then they got the complaint because a parent may not have been happy with the outcome of our investigation, if you will. But the PRS, which is the problem resolution piece, had to be put into this policy so the parents had a clear understanding that if they didn't like something that we did or didn't do, that they had the right to go this pathway. So that was really the major change in this, but back to Mr. Lynch's definition, I think the key word is the repetition of the offense to the same person. And so if you start with that premise, the investigation would reveal, oh, yeah, it's not just once or twice, it's 5 times, it's repeated, and they learn from other people, and then that becomes a much more serious outcome for the student who is deemed the aggressor, and certainly the safety plan for the children, or the target, I should say, is developed in concert with their family if it's a minor.
Yep, Ms. Babcock.
I have one more. I did go a year ago to the CPAC meeting about bullying for special needs children, and I think it was very important for the parents who were there to hear that information and to have it at a level, although it was really long, actually. It was kind of very complex, to be fair, but it was really interesting. So I guess my last question is what would you advise students or parents in thinking about reporting what they believe is, I don't want to use quote unquote, but conflicts or issues, because sometimes maybe if a conflict is resolved, it doesn't escalate into a repeated incident. So what would you say to parents or students as far as reporting what they believe is say a conflict or a bullying issue, and how long should they wait? What steps should they go through? Where should they go first?
They shouldn't wait at all. They can, and I think the biggest thing that we look for when developing a student's IEP, if they have a disability or concerns, is a safe adult. Safe adult is the most important thing in the building for a student. It can be any adult. It can be, from custodian to just the principal. It can be anyone in the building. That's the first thing we would always tell them, is to go to a safe adult, and the information always then gets back to the people that will run the investigation. But I think that's the clearest one.
So for students, you're saying go to a safe adult first?
Yep.
Perfect. And what about parents?
Safe adult as well. It's great. There's a lot of parents that might see you outside standing on the street. We would, stop by at 5 o'clock at night. We'd still be there to pick up homework. Just if you see someone from the schools, ask someone from the schools. And if you at pickup, you get to know people, you get to see it. It's just really who you're comfortable talking to, because the information always filters up.
So that being said, just because that leads, it wasn't something I was going to ask, but now that you had mentioned it, should a child or a parent come up to a safe adult, what is our responsibility in reporting?
Usually what I have found, in any adult in a school that gets a concern from a parent brings it to school administration.
Yeah. We have to do that at
Yeah.
UMass, even for children who are already adults. If you hear
Yeah.
something that is not appropriate, you are a designated reporter and you have to report it. So thank you for bringing that up. That reminded me of
Yeah.
that aspect as well. Am I correct in saying that? I just want to be clear that I'm saying that correctly. Okay.
100%.
All
And to
right.
Dr. Donahue's point, that means all school staff,
Yep.
bus driver, athletic coach, volunteers who are working under the premise of the Everett Public Schools are all mandated reporters. And if any incidents, any complaint comes, because it's not just within the walls of Everett High School, Parlin, the Maddie English, it's any school activities and outside. If it affects that student in our buildings, that is reportable.
Yeah, and we've had family members or just people in the community come in representing a parent that couldn't, so any of that's acceptable.
Well, thank you so much for answering all of my detailed questions. I spent a lot of time reading this information. I think that a lot of reasons that kids choose not to go to school, which impacts their attendance and learning, is that there are sometimes circumstances that make them feel unsafe or unwelcome, and by anyone, we never know. You never know, like you mentioned, staff, students, whatever it may be. So I think that this is a really important issue that we brought up, and I personally, having read the whole thing, I didn't want to just blindly say, oh yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that my questions were answered, and when we have these conversations, they're recorded, and then other people maybe are out there listening, and there's a new person out there that's educated because of our conversation tonight. So thank you very much.
And don't forget, we have social workers, guidance staff that meet regularly with our young folks, and oftentimes things are revealed in those conversations. Those individuals are also mandated to report what they talk about in those kinds of reports to administration. So we have a lot of entry points for students to feel comfortable to share an experience, and sometimes, unfortunately, it's not the experience in the school, it's at the home, and then we take an additional step that's different from what we described. And we've done that.
Thank you, Ms. Babcock. Ms. Ferris?
Favorable action?
So I have one more question.
Quick, because some of my questions were already
Go ahead.
answered. I like the anonymous reporting, just from having to deal with an incident years past. I like the update, but where would parents, I guess, like find this information to know about bullying and like how to report it in the steps?
It's on, right now, there's the old policy on our website,
Okay.
and there's the new proposed policy on our website.
Okay.
And then, once this gets accepted, we could even have this translated and then posted to our website.
Okay, because I think a lot of parents aren't aware as well as like, it has to be at least 3 incidents with the same person. Because I know sometimes it's like a group of people and it's hard to consider it bullying because
So we
they
can't,
take-
so that's, I think that may be like the legal definition of harassment, which we don't want to confuse, right? So, which is great, because that can be confusion too,
Yeah.
where, students get older, and then maybe police involvement. So it doesn't have to put a number on it of 3. So it's repeated. So that does give, which can be tricky, to Ms. Babcock's question
Yeah.
on it, which can be tricky to try and figure that out. But what it does give is the autonomy to the schools to not say it has to be 3 times, right? It could have been, twice could have been repeated. And like I said, it gets so nuanced, and being with these kids and knowing what happens, and, bringing in our own experience, our own life experiences, which I think is important to bring that in too. So it's not just 3. I think the 3 is more of like a harassment, if there was like a stay away order, harassment, which we've had to deal with that too. That doesn't necessarily mean that bullying was occurring in our building, but there could be outside issues that were brought in, and then we're abided by law to do that. So it's really so individualized and not so black and white on everything. That's why it's so important to have, number 1, to have the policy, and number 2, that I see that we've been following, this policy to go forward and just take every incident as its own, because some of them are so different. And like you say, it could be one, you could have a group of students, it could be, it could be issues of, and like you say, the anonymous is, and some people are doing it anonymously, and then that's a whole other layer to try and investigate that. And I can tell you, we put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out, what is going on, which gets harder and harder these days with kids with the apps and using everything else to try and do that. And, but I can tell you, we put the time in, and we try to figure it out, get to the bottom of it, because to Ms. Babcock's point about that could be a detriment to a student coming to school, their attendance. It starts to affect every aspect of their life.
I think it's safe to say that we're definitely erring on the side of the student and understanding what brought this complaint forward, and the investigation can lead to more facts that are often obvious at first. And I think that, again, back to what Mr. Lynch said, we have a pretty welcoming community of students, and so that's why I think that you see our numbers low. It's not because we don't investigate, it's not because we don't take the policy serious, it's because we just don't have those kind of complaints. I'm not saying that we're perfect, but I think that there's a good track record here. But thank you, both of you, for giving us some insight into that. I also would like to acknowledge a member of our academic leadership team that's here with us this evening, Nancy Cianchetta. Nancy sees the students day in and day out, and I think she can attest to our student focus, especially on issues of bullying and harassment.
Any further questions for our guests?
Second, because there was a motion, I think, to
Yep.
move to favorable action.
Motion for favorable action
Do you
to
wanna
accept
excuse
the
our
bullying
guests?
prevention
Do we
and,
excuse our guests? Sorry. Make a motion to excuse our guests with the customary.
Second the motion.
motion made by Ms. Barrows, seconded by Ms. Cristiano to excuse our guests. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion has been made and seconded for favorable action by Ms. Cristiano and Ms. Babcock to accept the bullying prevention and intervention plan. Can we do a roll call on that one? Thank you.
And this will be included in the handbook and posted on the website, as I think both of the gentlemen mentioned.
Ms. Babcock,
Yes.
Ms. Barrows,
Yes.
Ms. Cornelio,
Yes.
Ms. Cristiano,
Yes.
Ms. Garin,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So moved, 6-0.
So moved, 6-0, motion passed. Superintendent, the next order of business.
Item 3, request approval for the Crimson Community Mentorship Program to use the Everett High School Crimson Café on Saturday, October the 18th, 2025. And I'm requesting this favorable action to also waive any fee that would normally be associated with this. These folks have been here with us before in the last couple of years. It was established by Everett High School alumni who come forward and work with our students in a mentorship-based program and helps our students have a connection to folks outside of Everett High School and develop a network with them for them to succeed. So I would ask for your favorable action.
Move to favorable action.
Second.
Motion has been made for favorable action by Ms. Babcock, seconded by Ms. Barrows to approve the Crimson Community Mentorship Program to use the Everett High School Crimson Café on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, and waive the fee. Roll call.
Ms. Babcock,
Yes.
Ms. Barrows,
Yes.
Ms. Cornelio,
Yes.
Ms. Cristiano,
Yes.
Ms. Garin,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So moved, 6-0.
6-0, motion passed. Superintendent?
Roman numeral 7, items submitted by school committee members. There are none this evening. Roman numeral 8, subcommittee reports. Item 1 on finance and negotiations for Monday, August the 25th, 2025.
Motion to accept the committee report and place it on file. Second.
Yes.
Motion has been made by Ms. Cristiano, seconded by Ms. Cornelio to waive the reading, accept the report, and place on file for Finance and Negotiation Subcommittee Monday, August 25th, 2025. No, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passed. Superintendent, the next order of business?
Roman numeral 9 is bills and payrolls. There were none before you this evening, as we did that batch last week. Roman numeral 10, there is no unfinished business before you. Roman numeral 11, new business. There is none before you. Roman numeral 12, hearings. There are none before you this evening. Roman numeral 13, matters for executive session. There are none, Madam Chairperson. Roman numeral 14 is the adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Barrows, seconded by Ms. Cornelio to adjourn. Before we do, I just want to, I didn't do it at the beginning of the meeting, I'm sorry. Committee member Joe D'Onofrio, Marconi Barrows, and Joe LaMonica send their regrets that they were unable to attend this evening. I apologize. Motion has been made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We have adjourned at 7:22. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.